And we're live.
Welcome everyone. My name is Jiskang Nika Collison and tonight is Tuesday, March 16th, 2021. Hawa dalang wadluhan. Thank you everyone for tuning in tonight on Zoom and Facebook Live. Tonight's webinar is Nourish and Flourish. But before we begin, we'll ask Git Yuans, Dana Mores to start us off in a good way. You're on mute.
Thank you. I was saying how I just gone. So I'm going to give a prayer from Ship's Singasu. So I can give a prayer from this book. This is a food prayer from James Young and Gladys Vandell. Sanang it Haidagas. Ahayat Singai Scoutagi Dung Gaffel Kilt Lagan. Wagin Gatagai Scoutagia Sing Slakilt La. Wagin Gatagai Gada Tulganang. Gaya Sing Scoutagi Dung Gatel Kilt Lagang. Playat Han Gaha Kuts Heathly Githlagina Hastel Gudang. Da'u Gina Wadluhan Gan Kula Gang Hawa Salana. Creator, I thank you for today. And then I thank you for the food as well. And then I thank you for preparing the food as well. Wherever there are hungry children, put food in their mouths. Hawa Salana. Hawa. Muted.
You got me back. Hawa Git Yuans and Hawa so much for doing that prayer, and also to Fqatilda Haida Kilnai, the Skiddy Haida Immersion program, for such an incredible book. Git Yuans and I were talking earlier today of how important it is to us in our daily lives. So welcome to anyone who is just joining us. Tonight is the fourth webinar in a series focused on the development of a Haida Gwaii food and clean water strategy. It's an all-island project involving a number of organizations, including the Council of the Haida Nation, Skidegit Band Council, Haida Child and Family Services, Nislane Healthy House, Haida Gadlang Society, Healthy Haidas Program, Gwaii Trust Society, Local Food to School Program and Haida Foods Committee, Swi Luid Sustainability Society, Sa Flindanai, the Haida Gwaii Museum, and Northern Health. These webinars are exciting arenas to hear from local food enthusiasts about what it will take to move Haida Gwaii towards food independence over the next 50 years. To date, we have heard from elders, youth, farmers, and just general food leaders in our community. In tonight's webinar called Nourish and Flourish, we have 6 exciting guests from villages and municipalities across the islands. From Fqaqilda, we have Git Yuans, Dana Mores on behalf of the Skidegit Band Council. Councillor Kilplotska, Brody Swanson, is zooming in from Gautlage for Old Masset Village Council. Dodging Geet's resident and mayor of the village of Queen Charlotte, Gluju, Chris Olson, is here. We'll have a short message from the village of Port Clements after him, and followed by Joanne Young, elected representative for Area D, which includes Chinukanlai, Miller Creek, Talal, Tao Hill, and Nadu Road, and a few other places. After Joanne, Emmy O'Gorman will be presenting on behalf of Kilkun, Sandspit, and Otska, Terry Cardy from the village of Masset. As always, as we move through the evening, the audience is encouraged to put your comments and your questions in the chat box of both Zoom or Facebook Live, whichever one you're on. You have a chance to win one of 6 awesome door prizes donated by MEADS, Misty Isles Economic Development Society, And in that thanks to them, we'd also like to give a shout out to Mead's Executive Director, Jen Rutt, who was really super helpful in putting tonight's program together. The door prizes are 3 Love Haida Gwaii masks, 1 Love Haida Gwaii t-shirt, and 2 Local Foods reusable tote bags. So I think that, yeah, that's 6 items. So you have a chance to win one of 6 or more, you never know. And when your questions in your chat, when your questions and your comments are in the chat, some panelists may answer them as we go along, but we do have a question and answer period at the end as well, so we can have conversation there. Another great way to contribute to the Haida Gwaii food strategy is to email us. If you want to ask questions, provide comments, or get involved, please email hgfoodstrategy@gmail.com, and that will go up on the screen a little later for those who need to still write it down. As well as always, we have Kara Seavright, graphic illustrator, who will be recording tonight's wonderful words, and we'll take a peek at her incredible art at the end of the evening. And lastly, I want to give a plug for our next webinar, which is called Water is Life, which will be held 7 p.m. on April 22nd. So before we get down to tonight's business, we do have some leftover business from our last webinar, which was from Farm to Table. Kevin Brown is here tonight, and he'll be reading some more information from the Lavoie family, which we missed in our last webinar, and we apologize to the Lavoies. We're really thrilled that you're joining us this evening by phone. So hello to your whole family. We are in awe of all you do. So welcome to the Lavoies on the phone, and welcome to Kevin Brown, who will share with us about the Lavoies farm.
Thank you, Nika. It's my pleasure to read out the letter that they had prepared. It was a 3-pager. I have had the opportunity to meet the Lavoies a couple of years ago at the Masset Market. I was selling clam chowder, and we traded produce. So that was pretty cool. We've been friends ever since. I visited their farm in Sewell Inlet in the summertime. That was amazing. Here we go. We were asked and encouraged by different individuals to share thoughts. We try to stay out of politics and do not have all the answers, but here are some thoughts. We're asked, what do you need to continue growing food on islands to be sustainable? The first thing that comes to mind is more agricultural land, so farmers can expand the growing area as to rotate crops, rest soil, and build soil. Grow hay, grain for animals and human consumption, and more areas for grazing. The cost of hay and grain for cattle, pigs, and chickens, etc., is so high, it hinders production, and also costs of soil amendments as well. The access to the eradicated sea urchins would be of much benefit, and other local invasive marine species. The opportunity to harvest seaweed for animals and human consumption, and soil building. The soils tend to be very acidic and have need of a lot of lime and important trace minerals. Some could be available on islands, such as limestone, etc. There are facilities that make wood waste into carbon charcoal, which is a very important substance in holding nutrients in soil, especially in wet climates. One of the side benefits is a carbon negative diesel fuel, which is important to operate farm equipment, fish boats, vehicles, etc. Another question was, what do the islands need to be food independent in 50 years from now? It would be helpful to encourage people who want to produce food locally by making land available in good agricultural areas at reasonable prices. Encourage to keep cattle, local dairy, and regulate local deer harvest and rebuild local fishing industry. We definitely need to be concerned about food sustainability on Haida Gwaii, but as we discussed, the questions, many thoughts came to mind. Um, what about encouraging people excuse me, what about encouraging people to each consider all what they do buy in 30 days and where it came from and how it was produced? Think about, what if whatever reason the supplies were no longer available or there was no means of getting it to the islands? The food you consume, where was it grown? BC, California, China? Question mark, question mark, question mark. What is the quality of the food and the food value once it gets to Haida Gwaii? And that goes as and then it goes food, building supplies, fuel for hydropower, vehicles, medical supplies, etc., etc. The food you consumed where Haida Gwaii. As we consider these things and the uncertainty and how quickly things can change, and much of it is out of our control, if each one of us does our part of things can be accomplished, but our greatest help comes from the Lord Jesus Christ. May we seek to know him and follow him, trust in God and pray. Gerald Lavoie family, Lavoie's Family Farm. Thank you.
Hawa so much, Kevin, and hawa so much to Gerald Lavoie and the Lavoie's Family Farm. Your knowledge and your thoughtful words are so important. And Hawa, thank you again for all you do. I would summarize my listening in that to buy local, but also think global, think about our actions and thinking about locally created foods, how it's grown, how it's handled, how it's prepared. You know, my Auntie Guagana taught me you have to have good, beautiful feelings and good mind from start to finish. So good love makes good food. So Hawa, very much to you all. Our first guest for tonight's panel on Nourish to Flourish is Git Yuan's Dana Mores. She belongs to the Kayaf Lanis Choth clan of the Haida Nation and is of Haida and Musqueam descent. She is passionate about economic development and Indigenous community planning. Dana has worked as a production manager, casting, and a second assistant director for the film, that awesome film, Edge of the Knife. And currently she is executive director for Gwaii Corporation, which is the economic arm of the Skidegate Band Council. For the past 4 years, Dana has also proudly been part of the Indigenous and Northern Affairs Mentorship Initiative and welcomes opportunities to present, facilitate, and share knowledge of her community's planning experience nation to nation. Dana continues to support community programs working with elders and youth honoring tradition, language, and protocol. And Git Yuans, it's a real pleasure to have you here tonight. And I do have to give a shout out to you for especially your language advocacy and all the amazing signage in Haida Kill throughout Squawkilda. So Hawa for that. And I hope you're doing well. And my first question for you this evening are, what are the economic opportunities in your community of Squawkilda or Skidegate around food?
Well, so I had a little bit of a hard time with this question initially, but I also have a little bit of a presentation I'd like to share. So first of all, I just want to explain about how Indigenous economic development is different than regular economic development. In that with Indigenous economic development, it's more of operating at a level of the community. We're looking at like social enterprise. So how do we best look after the community first before we can move forward successfully with our businesses? We need to make sure that everybody's looked after. So a lot of our programs, a lot of our businesses operate that way. We look after the community needs first, and then we move forward after that. So one of the initiatives that we've been working on at the Haida Heritage Center, which is one of the organizations that I manage, is traditional food security. And this actually came up because of COVID. because of the pandemic. We already had displays in the center. You know, we had some examples of traditional food. We have photographs, exhibits of photographs of people harvesting food, but it's very minimal, really, when we've learned that a lot of people come to Haida Gwaii to learn about Haida culture and Haida traditions, especially around food. So really, how do we expand on that, and how do we learn more from our ancestors? And so during COVID, we thought this is a perfect opportunity to start a traditional food security program where we can work outdoors. We can do outdoor exhibits. We don't have to worry about, you know, being inside, especially considering that the center has been closed this last year. So, so we put together a few proposals to get some funding for wages, for elder honoraria, for translations, for signage, and for some outdoor exhibits. So if I could just show my PowerPoint, I'll do that now. Okay. Just bear with me here. So, so the idea is that we build upon our, oops, our already existing exhibits. So what is traditional food security? We know that as Haidas, we've always been able to live off the land year round. We say that when the tide is out, the table is set, and we have a traditional food wheel where we can harvest specific things throughout the year and survive very well off of that. So what I did was I hired Captain Gold, who is a historian in our community, to go through old archival photographs and look at traditional village sites and identify some of the stuff existing in our villages and how we processed food, how we worked on food security, and how we survived and succeeded for so many years. So if you look at this, we can see traditional food. You can see the fish drying racks here. And actually we had these fish drying racks in Edge of the Knife as well, where we were seasonal food fishing. And you can see some of the other notes he has here: kelp on spruce, the baskets. So we want to replicate this at the Haida Heritage Center. So we want to have some outdoor fish drying racks that the community can use. It's not just about an exhibit, it's about something that the community can actually access, where we can run programs and teach our youth and teach our community members, as well as visitors, about how we process food. This is another drawing that Captain Gold did of the engineering behind the tripods and the way that the fish racks were set up. And they were always multi-purpose. There were always other purposes for use. So one of them would be a ladder to go up and down the longhouse and get onto the roof. This is another angle of it. And we're hoping that we can run some youth workshops where we can teach the youth how to build these and then use these as our displays. Some more photographs of where they're going to go in the center. Yeah, so this is another, you can see the tripod display here of the fish rack. Some of these are in Old Skidegate here. You can see this is in front of Percy Williams' house. Another photograph, and this one is actually displayed inside the Haida Heritage Center. It's blown up quite big, so you can see some of the stuff in here, the sacks and the halibut or whatever fish is drying. Here's another photograph of some stuff drying here on this rack. And here's another photograph. You can sort of see a little bit here. There's it's sort of like a makeshift fence around the pole, but it's also actually a garden. Here's another photo of some fish racks with the seasonal frame. We also wanted to build a traditional community smokehouse using the longhouse style. So Captain Gold has done a lot of research on this, looking at the photographs. So we've come up with a design, and it's actually going to be bigger than 10 by 10. It's about, I think, 10 by 15. It's been fully funded now, so we're going to start we're just waiting for our cultural wood access permit, and we're going to start building this. And then this is an inside look at the smokehouse. We've got a fish rack on this side and a fish rack on this side. And then there would be a fire pit here and a fire pit over on this side. And there'd be a door on this side and then a door on the other side. And this is a little model of what the fish racks would look like and how they were tied together. Where this is going to go. Also, we wanted to focus a little bit more on some of our berries and educational displays on our berries. This is the high bush cranberry seeds, which I actually have here in the office. We're hoping we can actually create a little farm in the middle of the center where we can grow traditional berries and perhaps start a seed exchange. And these are some tobacco seeds. We're hoping to do the same thing, a little tobacco patch. And I love this photograph. This is a photograph of the potato patches. So Haidas have been known for trading for thousands of years. And this is another thing that that Nika was sharing with me today as well, is that Haidas never exported raw materials, that we always exported things that we'd made. And what's really interesting about this is that we actually grew potatoes and traded potatoes mostly with the newcomers, but also with people on the mainland. So we would fill our canoes with potatoes and take them over to the mainland. And you can look at how they're grown here. They're grown in these traditional mounds. They're grown in the front of the village where they're near the beach. And then they pull the seaweed up in the winter and they cover the potato patches and they refresh the soil. So it's such an amazing process. And we're hoping to do this at the Haida Heritage Center this summer as well. So we're looking for some seed potatoes to get started. And this is just another view of a potato patch in front of the village. And I think that's all that I have for that. Yeah.
Haida Gwaii, I'm hungry.
Okay, there we go. Great. So that's an opportunity we have to focus on island tourism and community workshops, and focus on the things that we did in the past and how we can bring back some of those traditions.
Hawa so much get you on the Gwaii, really. I'm truly hungry now. I should have grabbed a snack. So one of our Haida values is to share with others. So do you have examples of how Whakilda, the community of Whakilda, shares with others?
Sure. So first of all, I just want to mention that we have some of our traditional laws in our CCP, in our Comprehensive Community Plan. And one of our traditional laws is the sharing of wealth. And that's Ginahan Gut Git. So the way that we show our status or build our status is by what we can give away and what we can share with others. So one of the things that I think about quite often is traditionally the stories that I remember of hearing about some of the fishermen in the village. They would come, after a successful season of fishing, and they would fish for the community, and they would bring it to the beach, and they would unload the fish at the beach, and anyone that needed fish would come and get fish from the beach. So they would always share their wealth. I think about Dempsey Collinson. He would do that quite often. He's one of the last people that I remember. But also, the Skinnigat Band Council, the Council of the Haida Nation, the Old Masset Band Council, they do the same thing. They hire food fishers to go out, and then they catch that harvest, whether it be halibut or arrangements they have with the Heiltsuk Nation or with Bella Bella to get cow, the rowan kelp, or fish or salmon, and then they will deliver it to the door so that everybody has access to traditional food.
That it's a really beautiful thing, and I feel very lucky to be part of the Whakilda community. And hawa to the band council for all you do, especially in this last year, taking care of your residents. It truly means a lot, and it's helped a lot as well. Dana, does Skinnigat draw on what Haida Gwaii has to offer for economic development? And you've already demonstrated how you've learned about some of what Haida Gwaii offers from Haida knowledge holders like Captain Gold, but does Skidegate draw on island resources for economy?
Well, you know, I personally see a lot of small businesses in our community that are taking advantage of that, especially when it comes to food. I see a lot of people that are, you know, selling food from their homes, food businesses, selling lunches or selling dinners, takeout dinners from their home, and they're using traditional food. I also think about Haida dogs, where they would sell like the smoked salmon in the bun. I think that's an amazing entrepreneurial enterprise. Like um, there's so many opportunities for local people to do that. I know there's other businesses that have harvested seaweed and whatnot, but it also has to be backed by our traditional laws. So you make sure that you're doing things correctly.
How, yes, take only what you need and then only from what the land can bear, hey? Our last question for you tonight is, what are some opportunities for the community of Fakilda to work together with all communities on Haida Gwaii that in a way that can contribute to food and clean water independence?
Well, you know, we have so many amazing programs and organizations working on food security and food programs on Haida Gwaii. And so being able to come together and work on the Haida Gwaii food strategy, I think is number one. There's so much amazing work has already happened. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. We just need to share our knowledge together and then figure out how we can best work together to solve our food, to have food sovereignty on Haida Gwaii. But I also like to reflect back on some of the work that's been done with Meads and Gwaii Corporation with the visitor exit survey and tourism. And we were asking visitors, you know, what kind of things do you think that we're missing here while you were visiting? What kind of things would you have liked to have done? And they said they would like to see more cultural experiences. They would like to see more food. So there's a lot of opportunity for food businesses on Haida Gwaii, and also culinary, like Haida cultural cuisine. Like people are thrilled when they can like have some smoked salmon off the beach, you know, on a fire, or a culinary cooking class, how to make jam. So I think there's a lot of opportunities around a culinary experience on Haida Gwaii. We've got a lot of amazing chefs.
How, yes, sharing food together, it always tastes better, right? So that's fantastic. And I really, really appreciate as well you pointing out a Haida economy is a very unique thing. And we need to make sure we're taking care of our people before we can really add to our coffers. And so a healthy mind, body, and spirit equals healthy community, and culture, that equals a healthy community, because it encompasses it all. So how I get you on so much for everything.
Thank you. And I just wanted to note that Shelley had mentioned something here in the chat about food safety regulations blocking food independence. So I think, yes, that's a major challenge for us as to harvest traditional food and be able to serve it publicly. But that's one of the important reasons why we need to work together on this food strategy. How can we support each other and meet all of these regulations as a group? I know for another really good example too is if you look at Ruth Wheaton and Barry, they have a certified a meat processing facility on their property. And I know the Food to School program has used it for harvesting deer, and other organizations have done that as well. So I think we just need to work together and support each other to make these things happen.
How, yes, and I noticed in the chat too that the boys are challenged around dairy production, as are others for because of different regulations as well. So there's a lot of work to do in that area. How, again, get UNs. Our next panelist, Kiltlotska Brody Swanson, belongs to the Yakwanis clan and is currently a resident of Old Masset. He spent 8 years in Vancouver working in various eateries and kitchens, learning to become a chef, and what a chef you are, Brody. In doing so, he learned the importance of using local fresh produce and product in food preparation and execution. He was hired by Haida Tourism in January 2020 as the executive chef to oversee the food and beverage programs and manage Haida House and Ocean House kitchen operations. Food has always been an important aspect of Brody's life. Traditional food gathering and preservation played an important role growing up in Gautlage, Old Masset. His Nani and Awa, his grandmother and mother, are major influences in his journey into culinary arts. He has always had a keen interest in food preparation and remembers watching cooking shows on Saturday mornings between his favorite cartoons. Kilplasta is also an Old Masset Village councillor. Welcome tonight, and how are you doing, Brody?
I'm great. Hawa. Just like to say big Hawa to the program for inviting me to be a panelist and share about my thoughts and ideas around food sovereignty for our island. Hawa.
Hawa. So you've been working in food around these islands for a while, and you're also a counselor for the village or for the Old Masset Village Council, and you work for Haida Tourism. You're everywhere. So what economic opportunities are happening within Gautlage, within Old Masset, that involves island food?
Well, for me, it's more of initiatives that can happen and identifying those. Like, so it's one of the areas that I would love to see explored is prescribed wildberry patches, promoting the wildberry growth beyond their natural occurrence, if and where possible, so we could take advantage of their economic availabilities. Like, from what I understand, UBC confirmed my suspicions that the salal berry is as high in antioxidants as the pomegranate, blueberry, acai, all these superfruits, and it would be in our best interest to take that and like I said, promote the growth naturally, and see if we can have some prescribed berry batches so we can process them. And also, there's the Richmond-based company called Rich Berry Group. They started in 1978 and dubbed the Cranberry Kings of Canada. They're primary grower of ocean spray. And a little known fact about the Rich Berry Group is they started by transplanting Haida wild cranberries. And that's how their empire started, was transplanting wild Haida Gwaii cranberries. And then, yeah, here they are, the largest grower for ocean spray. And I think it's an opportunity we could look into, is taking our naturally occurring fruits and then, like I said, do the best we can for them, and that involves putting our deer population in check, because their constant browsing is jeopardizing our wild berries and other growths in and around Haida Gwaii. And like I said, the deer also present an economic opportunity too, and I love to hear about the schools and the hospital taking that opportunity and utilizing this food source. And it's something I would love to be able to serve within Haida tourism venues. Is, like, I dream of the day of having a fully dressed venison carcass being delivered to our kitchen and being able to break it down and serve it, grind it up, and then utilize it in the way that we would use a pig or a side of beef.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and other opportunities that I see that can be taken advantage of is the aquaculture, not just shellfish. I know there's some ideas entertained in the past, and I'd like to see some revisited, because I know we entertained the idea of having a gooey duck farm, but from what I understand, it's a 12-year grow cycle or maturation cycle. So, it's not in our best interest to put all our eggs in one basket waiting 12 years, so we could do like incremental steps on having, oysters or even mussel farms. And then in the meantime, working our way up to having, the cash crop of a gooey duck. So, and also like, with also aquaculture comes, like the kelps and seaweeds. I'm really looking forward to seeing what we can do, because I watched this Netflix series called Flavorful Origins, and it's out of China. And one of their episodes focuses on the laver seaweed. Very much, I think it's the exact same species we harvest here on the north end to skew, akin to nori and other things. And then being able to cultivate that, because they've devised a way to put them on racks in their bays and in front of their towns, and being able to, like I said, cultivate this this flavor that we wouldn't normally that we'd normally have to go out and harvest, but we would have it like right in front. Like these are opportunities that we could and should look into, and this is things that I'm bringing to our council to entertain and see what we can do to generate not just jobs, but food security to benefit all our people in Masset and around the island.
That is amazing, and I'm really excited. And actually, Gityuans and I were talking earlier today about berries. I was mentioning, there was a berry cooperative down on Vancouver Island, an Indigenous one, and we were thinking, well, how would we do it here? We wouldn't want to take all the berries from our people to sell. But you've got the answer right there. Gityuans, prescribed berry patches, right? So we got Kiltlotska Hawa for that, and the deer. I'm very passionate about how so much you can do with deer. The fat from the belly is apparently a beautiful moisturizer, and then we could make sinew and deer hides and all that along with your food, right?
Yeah, and all the offal, the innards could be used for dog food and other things, and that's what it comes to, like, in having all these berries and other opportunities. We could consider having an island co-op where there's like a central place for dehydrating products. Like different people could, different communities or whoever could go out and pick all these berries and either dehydrate them or freeze them. Like there's opportunities, and we just need to take advantage of them some way, shape, or form. And that comes from our leadership within OMVC, CHN, and SBC to lead the way by setting up opportunities in all sorts of different avenues, whether it's the land, the sea, and everywhere in between.
I really like how you're looking at it as even where things grow wild, we can manage them, just like our ancestors did. They managed the berry bushes. They managed our everything that we depended on. They managed, and there's a huge historic Haida agriculture component to all of this, where there's the gardening that we know today, where we plant things, but also the coexisting with that, which gives us food directly from Haida Gwaii. And there is management in there. There's responsibility.
Yeah, that's right. And just like everything Dana was saying, like we're not reinventing the wheel here. We're learning from what we did in the past, and moving forward, I'd love to see us, like you utilize those slides and then those historical references that will be set up the Kailna guy for us to move forward and like I said, revisit those so we can enjoy our islands the way we have and not be dependent on the barges bringing in food from co-op or the causeway. Not that it's a bad thing, because it's perfect to supplement our off season, but I would also love to see greenhouses generated, because we have talks of bioheat, and we already have a couple that are one that's set up for Chief Matthews. And we could, double off, piggyback off those and have greenhouses coming off those. So like, that's something that excites me as a chef, because, there's a limited grow season, as was mentioned by the Lavois, and I would really, really love for us to, take advantage of opportunities like having these biomasses, so we can, create year-round growing opportunities through greenhouses and other places. So yeah.
And you have a ton of knowledge, traditional, like Haida knowledge. You have Haida scholarship around food and obviously so many other things. And it was mentioned your Nani and your mom, your were huge influences. Is that that's a big inspiration, but I imagine that's a huge foundation for your knowledge of how to gather and treat and prepare food and your greater vision. Hey.
Yes. Completely agree.
Yeah, I miss your non. Your mom was on here, Crystal Swanson, a couple of episodes ago, a couple webinars ago, and she just blew us all away. So it's really nice to have you follow her in this evening. So as Gitewans and I were talking about, one of a very important Haida value is to share with others, and Kautlage does a lot of sharing, and I remember even that some Hagu went out island-wide. But what are some ways in which Kautlage shares with the islands and each other?
That's one of my favorite parts about my Gaotlage community is how much we share. You know, like it's when wash up happens or somebody's out clam digging. You know, it's not too often I'll get a text message or a knock on my door asking if I would like some clams, a feed of cockles, or what have you. And like I said, the generosity from our band council to distribute halibut island wide was a great initiative. You know, to have a little bit for everybody to share. And also, like the rowan kelp is a great treat to have also coming from Bella Bella, and it's that intertribal relationships that we can and should sustain through trade, and in buying the cow from them, and like maybe we could do something for them in the future, other than in economic trade, and figure out like what do we have on island so we could promote that. And also and that's like I was saying, the great part about living in Masset is the generosity that these people, that everybody has. Is if there's bounty to be harvested, is to be shared, and it doesn't matter what it is, and it's always more satisfying when shared is mentioned. So yeah, Hawa for that.
Hawa, so true. I just love my relatives and friends up there. It's a beautiful place. So last question would be, what are some I think you've spoke to this, but I'm going to ask you anyways. What are some opportunities for the community of Gaotlage to work together with all communities to contribute to island food and water independence? I've heard you say it, but if you want to add a little bit more in there, or if you have anything else you'd like to say.
Yeah, I've been really latching on to this word that's in the spirit of the Haida Nation, is the reciprocity, and that's giving and sharing in all sorts of different ways, whether it's financial gains, food gains, or just independence, and just helping each other out around island. Like it's to all our benefit to like support each other, support the Lavois, support Haida Nation initiatives, and support our fisheries. And like it's one thing to criticize a lot, but then it's way better to uplift and not just be someone that focuses and magnifies problems. Like I want to hear solutions. Like everybody has seen and heard all the different the negative aspects, and like I just say, let's come together, let's bring up some solutions, and take care of each other.
How good at Pangulha working together. How so much, Kilplasta. Such an honor to get to talk to you about food and your vision and your greater community's vision tonight. How again. We have lots of comments going on here. We're going to need an hour to talk through those, but there's just a lot of really positive comments on here from Git Yuan's and Brody's talk so far, and just really grateful to everyone who is so engaged. And there will be a question and answer at the end as well, and you're contributing to the conversation. You also then get your name in a draw for some great door prizes. So our next guest tonight is Blueju, Chris Olson, who is an adopted member of the Skadans Raven clan. He was born on Haida Gwaii in 1976 to Lee and Bob Olson, who raised him on a combination gill netter troller, chasing salmon along the northwest coast. That's quite an upbringing. He has worked at Gitgalang Koyas Nai Secondary School for nearly 15 years. My kids are a huge fan of yours, Blueju. In addition, he is a certified arborist who owns and operates a small tree service business out of Dodging-Geets, Queen Charlotte. In 2005, he was elected as a councillor for the village of Queen Charlotte for 3 terms, and in 2019, he became the mayor. He is blessed to have a wonderful partner, and I can attest to that, Jat Bao, Paula Varnell, and a dog named Gugadis, which means thimbleberries. Haida Gwaii has provided his family and community with an abundance of healthy food. He respects the interconnectedness with the land and sea, that which sustains us and sustains the community. Welcome, Blueju, Mayor Chris. How are you doing tonight?
I'm well, Howard. Just gone. Thank you very much. Really appreciate being here tonight.
Excellent. Well, Howard, for taking time to join us. You are a busy man, as is everyone on this panel. So what about Dodging-Geets? What are the economic opportunities in dodging geeks around island foods?
Well, I see a lot of opportunity, and the first thing I think of is, you know, some of the Haida stewardship laws, like Gina Wadluhan Gut At Kwa Gida, that everything depends on everything else. And I think of stewardship immediately when I think of this question. And I think of organizations like the Hecate Strait Streamkeeper Society, and the work they're doing to revitalize salmon streams. There's a lot of work that's needed on our island to revitalize those salmon streams that have been you know, altered and have experienced a lot of damage over the course of our resource extraction economy that occurred for many generations here on the island. So I really feel being good stewards of the land first in rehabilitating our streams and land is an extremely important aspect. And for me, it makes me move down to the stream and think of the opportunities we have in rehabilitation, but also in hatcheries. I think of the small scale hatchery we have in the village of Queen Charlotte that Aaron Harris and Brad Yoinkman, they work on. And I remember as a kid, there used to be like small scale hatcheries on almost every single stream within the village and all throughout the island. And it seems like over the course of years, hatcheries have no longer been seen as important anymore. And I think we need to look at that again. And from that, I also see things like my next door neighbors, George and Donette Farrell, who walked streams for years. So people that would actually look and monitor. So I see a lot of opportunity. And then I think of my friend, you know, Buster Bell, who worked for conservation there as enforcement. So I see a lot of work and a lot of opportunity within that in our community. So from looking at the work as a steward and moving forward, I think of the marine environment and all the opportunity we have out in the ocean. I remember as a young boy, our salmon sustained so many families. And it was a family industry where you'd grow up on the boat and you'd work out there, and we've transitioned away from that. And I think there's a lot of opportunity out there on the water for families. We need to buy licenses. We need to own those licenses. I think organizations like Gwaii Trust starting to buy licenses to support our economy so that locals can own boats, fish locally, provide food for us. And I see a lot of opportunity out there within our marine environment. And when the marine environment, I think also of our intertidal zone, but also aquaculture within the village of Queen Charlotte. There is a small scale aquaculture license up the inlet there, and it's the sinless scallops, and I see oysters are starting to populate some of the beaches, and I think we need to start looking at that issue. You know, the oysters are an introduced species, but they also provide an economic opportunity. So we need to get a handle on it now before it gets out of hand, because the oyster spat is spreading throughout the inlet quite rapidly. So we need to understand that issue, but also harness that opportunity. And when we think about, you know, our marine environment, that interface, the intertidal, I think of so many opportunities for education. But also we have our harbor within our municipality, and we have to protect that because our fishing vessels, they only have really a number of docks to tie up to. And in the village of Queen Charlotte, we have a small craft harbor. And that's super, super important to us that we maintain that harbor so that all of the different vessels that harvest from the different species have a place to safely tie up, but not only have a safe place to tie up, but also have a safe place to offload their product. And I think of TNM, the seafood within our harbor there, and having that offload so that not only can our commercial fishermen offload their food, but also our sports fishermen can offload their food. And this is really important because they all tie together as we all think of how important our ocean is. But then I also think of organizations like Baru Farm, and I think of what Ruth Whedon and Barry Wiedemann have and how they've been able to get an abattoir. I remember years ago this argument when I first came on council about how difficult having an abattoir was and all the different licensing stuff. And I remember Bill Mackay, just like a constant advocate for island food sustainability, just working with a number of people trying to figure this out. So I see so much opportunity, because once we have these processors and these abilities, then we can get the food to the restaurants, get the food to the community. And from there, the opportunities are abound. But I also think of the forest floor and foraging. And I think of our mushroom co-op and picking chanterelles. I love growing up picking chanterelles. I used to deliver them to Brian and Debbie Pearson, and it provides a huge economy on our island, and it's an annual economy. And sometimes I think when we start harvesting our second growth forest resources, I think of all the lost opportunities. So it's all of us understanding how everything depends on everything else, and then working with our island communities to help support organizations and be stewards of our marine and our land environment, and work together, because I think the future is ours. We just have to come together and work together as island and Haida Gwaii, and we can do this. So I see so much opportunity. And from a municipal perspective, it's working with those other levels of governance, the band councils, Council of Haida Nation, the other municipalities or regional districts, so we can advocate at the provincial and federal level to support our local initiatives. And that's where I see a lot of opportunity.
Hawa Mayor Olson, and I just have to say, I'm sure Gila Kun's Creek Woman is really happy to hear you talk about the tuna, the salmon of Haida Gwaii, and the care we need to give, and the health that we need to bring back, so they can continue to come back. I liked your word about moving down the stream to the hatcheries. I just thought that was really cute, so I wanted to acknowledge that. Play on words, I love those things. And I was curious about the oysters, because they're both an actual challenge or problem, and they're an opportunity. And I was wondering, do these ones make pearls? Because I might be in the market for a necklace or two. And also, Missy McDonald mentioned that the oyster shells are great for gardens.
Yeah, they provide a lot of opportunity for nutrients and stuff within our soils.
Do you know about the pearl cultivation at all?
I do not know about the pearl cultivation, but I do know that there's a possibility. Get a little grain of sand in there and a pearl is formed. So it's an opportunity for someone to look into.
There you go. Excellent. And I was thinking about when Brody was talking about a commercial drying facility, for food. And I was thinking chanterelles would fit in there really well too. Hey, the powdered chanterelle flavors, and I don't know much about food myself. I depend on everyone here and beyond. So another question then for you, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Olson, is for your community, does the village of Queen Charlotte draw on what Haida Gwaii has to offer for economic development? And has there been any influence from Haida knowledge in doing so?
Well, absolutely. I think of, as was previously mentioned, Dana, with the seasonal round calendar and the harvesting cycles that draws on our elders and generations of knowledge. And we harvest from the ocean, and we harvest from the land. And that is a huge part of who we are as a community. And to do that with Yakudang respect, I think, is one of the most important values we can have, and to transfer and to share that with future generations. One of my things I remember being at Gondel Queen Hot Springs Island, and Captain Gold, he showed us how to harvest now and get a specific style of a stick, so we could respectfully remove the now and extract it from the den, but not to disturb the clutch. And then Skana Jutskialga Higung's Goalie Hands teaching all of us how to cook the now in an absolute delicious way. And this was done through the Swan Bay Rediscovery Program. And Dana at the time, she was director, and I worked under her. And these are opportunities for all of our kids, but also they present educational opportunities within our community and within our island. And for me, I think of things like that, this great opportunity we have in front of us to share how things are done with respect and stewardship in mind as we move forward and develop this economy.
Hawa so much, and Hawa for bringing up Yakutang. It's the foundation, isn't it? It's the foundation of how, if we can act like we've got things covered, if we can always remind ourselves to be respectful of others and everything. And so in that, I think you actually talked about, I asked you about drawing on traditional or Haida knowledge. And so you did bring up Yakudangang and the whole sharing and the respect and working and sharing together. And your community, like if you were to look in your community, do you see that similar to what Gityuans or Brody were talking about, the sharing in amongst the community and beyond the community?
Absolutely. I think the Brody there, and I think of the stewardship law, I have to say I'm very privileged to have a wonderful partner, Jut Plow, and she constantly sharing with me the Haida language and all the elders and working in the school. So I think of Ista Ariki Ista, to giving and receiving and reciprocity. And I think of our community. We've invested like significant funds in our boat launch. And that's so that everyone on Haida Gwaii can actually access the food resources on the water. Our boat launch is open to anyone, and it's available year round. In the summer months, we've recently, thanks to a lot of the efforts of previous Mayor Greg Morton, we've installed a floating dock to make life a lot safer for people bringing their boats in and out of the water. And so I think of municipalities, we work mostly with infrastructure, roads, water, sewer. Those are what we do, and in creating like bylaws. And so for us is making sure we have an environment that supports people's local food initiatives. But I also think of, I just recently realized, even though living here on Haida Gwaii my whole life, that there's no blackberries in the north end of Haida Gwaii. They're mostly down in the south end of Haida Gwaii. And I've seen a huge amount of people over the last couple of years come down to Dodging Geats, to the village of Queen Charlotte, and pick blackberries. And I find it really interesting because I really never realized that. I thought they were all over the island, but they're really not. They're mostly found down on the south end of Graham Island, and just seeing people from all over the island come down and harvest the blackberry and smiles on their face, that really makes me feel good. And making sure everyone understands doing it in a respectful way is extremely important, and in asking permission, because some of the people within our municipality take great pride in their blackberry bushes and work hard, but the majority of the blackberry bushes are just grown in the ditches and they're free for the taking. And that makes me really feel good that we have infrastructure for everyone to use, but we also have a natural occurring resource that people can come and harvest within our municipality.
Fantastic. I love that so much. Hoa. I will be heading up to Dodging Geats in July and August when they start to ripen. I just love my blackberries. Hey.
Yeah, they're good.
Yeah, they really are. So you've spoken to this, but I still have to ask you, maybe it's your way of signing off. What are some opportunities for your community to work together with all communities on Haida Gwaii around island food and water independence? Do you have any parting words you'd like to share?
Well, I really believe in island pride, island-wide, all of us coming together and working together. And some of these opportunities I see are continuing to work with our local food processors to make sure that we can to make sure resources can be purchased by locals. But also I see opportunities like Maud Island Farms and all the good work they're doing, and how we can promote and encourage organizations like that, and encourage our farmers market. I really feel that the farmers markets within our communities are extremely valuable. And I see people from all over Haida Gwaii coming and utilizing the farmers markets. And I'm just really happy that we have a great organization like the Queen Charlotte Community Club that has worked hard to ensure that those structures are there for people to use. And I really see food as an opportunity, but I also see education as an opportunity. As Dana and Brody have mentioned, people want to come here and they want to learn. Knowledge has a great value, and if we can just work together and kind of find ways for us to do this in a respectful way, so that when people come here, they do it with yakudang and those important principles and values, and they're not just coming here to take. And that bothers me when people take without thought. So having that education and working together on an island level, I think we have so much opportunities in the future for all of us. And one for myself is ensuring that the municipality, the village of Queen Charlotte, we don't become too restrictive. We need to make sure that if we create bylaws, that there are bylaws that people can live with and use for the peace order of their life, and to make sure that they can have a sustainable and healthy life and productive life. So Hala so much, and thank you for allowing me to be here tonight. Thank you everyone for coming.
Howard Luju, Mayor Olson, very much for that. That's wonderful stuff to hear, and I'm always so thrilled with your enthusiasm and passion for all of Haida Gwaii. And we're all so happy that your honey has such good taste as to choose you as her partner. So Howard Hala as well.
Thank you. We both won the lottery.
So yeah, you did. You guys are fantastic people. We're very lucky. So before we have two more panelists, I believe, three more panelists, but I have a quick note from Mayor Doug Doggart of Gamadis from the village of Port Clements. He says the village of Port Clements sends its regrets to the panel of the Nourish and Flourish Food Securities webinar. Historically, residents of our village have met many of our nutritional needs by accessing local food, without which our village would not have survived. We are pleased to have Joanne Young presenting. She represents much of the rural areas surrounding our village of Port Clements. We share common situations and concerns as the other municipalities on Haida Gwaii. Some frequent challenges are the cost of transportation, a limited growing season, and restrictions required by provincial and federal regulations. So how about Mayor Doggart? And we are very thrilled to have Joanne Young join us next. She is the Area D Director from the North Coast Regional District. She has a passion for advocating for rural people and animals, and sees how inequality and generational trauma compounds food security issues. She understands that food security affects everyone, but has the largest impact on marginalized people. She sees that there is a lot of support and partnership on the island, but that we have a large challenge ahead dealing with what will be a more challenging climate in the future and in growing inequities. She hopes her involvement will help provide some different perceptions, inspiration, and results. Welcome, Joanne. I hope you're doing well.
Thank you, Nika. And I want to thank you for organizing these food independence webinars and bringing food and water security issues back into public focus and into consultation. And I feel that the webinars that you're doing do help to advance our food literacy. So thank you for that. I feel it's important to acknowledge a few other partners here. Obviously, acknowledge the Haida traditional knowledge and history of food gathering and preservation practices, as we all benefit from the bounty. And I want to acknowledge the extensive background work and implementation plans that were created by the many research, technical, and steering committees that had come together and created the Haida Gwaii Agricultural Strategy of 2011. There were many, many people that participated in that strategy and implementation plan. And I also want to acknowledge the many people, old and young, who work today with the passion of fostering the food and water security for the people of these islands, including the past participants of the webinar who gave insight to the community initiatives and local teachings, and the knowledge keepers sharing their experiences. So thank you all. You know, we're all here on the island because we are interconnected, as you say, as we all know. We're connected to each other, we're connected to the land and the ocean and the air, and we're all here because we love these aspects of the island. The islands have been very generous to us all. So when I think of economic opportunities for our island supports and production, I feel in many ways COVID has amplified the practices and ideals that needed our attention, the reprioritization of, you know, the truly important issues here. Obviously food and water being some of the top priorities. So, and although we've all experienced great strain this last year, I feel that in some ways this pandemic has helped us in our realization and understanding for our interconnected, and supported our abilities to work and support each other. So spread out through the island, we have many hobby farmers, we have many home gardeners, the hunters, the gatherers, all throughout the island. And this COVID situation, and even pre-COVID, we were working, really brought awareness and community connection. I feel that we're much more aware of each other and what we can share with each other. So, you know, additional strengths for us are our community markets, and the networking and the social media supports that we have now are huge. You know, we see gardening webinars of how-tos, making different foods, and you know, years ago I took a course on the seaweed harvesting, but with Dolly Garza. It was amazing. So, although, you know, a lot of these markets and things have been limited in the pandemic, still have some minor infiltration into the grocery stores, which is great with the Lavoie's produce and some other meat products. And generally this pandemic, you know, has promoted community outreach, the local harvesters and hunters. And it's really made our community stronger, I think, as a whole, together. So, you know, where I feel we can continue, you know, I would like to see those efforts continued past this pandemic, and obviously funding needs to happen to support these systems. When I look at the challenges from the Haida Gwaii agricultural strategy of 2011, the challenges are very much, you know, the same challenges today, and listening to what other people have brought forward, you know, the viable land issue, regulation issues, climate, all these things, you know, some things are going to be a little easier to address than others, but they're the same challenges. And some, like the geographical isolation, of course, is just, it's one of those double-edged swords, right? It's a good thing, and it can be a bad thing too for some things. So, but yeah, like what I do see is certainly there are some issues here that us as local officials can help address, as in, you know, looking at the land, viable land, and regulations and costs and things. So I just wanted to touch on some of the previous action priorities that were brought forward, where of course the educational workshops which we continue to see with farm to school programs, the webinars, it's continuing in those. The production support. Oh, he's got some pictures up, sorry. You know, like the other challenges that were listed were, you know, the farming, researching the plots, again, the land issue, community farming, and accessible and affordable land. So, one of the things I also wanted to just mention that Chris had brought up was just a reminder and sort of a renewed thought as well for the hatcheries, the salmon enhancement programs, and, you know, maybe continuing our talks on preservation. The forest is an integral part of our living. So preservation and enhancement as well. I think we need to in the forefront. So.
How was so much?
I think some of those pictures are actually Regis, so I hope he doesn't mind. They got used.
Well, no, it was great. It was great to see that. And just before I make a couple comments, someone asked about the agricultural strategy plan of 2011 and where they could get it. And then Jen Rutt, the ED of Meads, said you can email. This is for people on Facebook because we have it in our chat books on Zoom. But you can email admin, A-D-M-I-N, at meads.ca, Meads being short for Misty Isles Economic Development Society. So Joanne, this is great stuff. And I love that you reflected on that COVID, under these circumstances, we have had to revisit a lot closer our interdependence on each other and on Haida Gwaii. And it has been quite extraordinary to see over this past year. And of course, it's not without challenges because we wouldn't be human if we didn't have them. And it just really has been extraordinary. In the museum where I work, we had to cancel all our programs and exhibitions or postpone them on March 18th of last year. And we just stopped and we watched the islands. We're an island, you know, we're a museum for the whole islands. And it was everywhere. Anyone who is gardening, anyone who's a food harvester, any organization that was working some way in food and health, all of a sudden there was a banding together across these islands. It was incredible to see. And it really inspired our museum in partnership with Sweetluid Sustainability Society to continue a program we'd started called Skaki to Start a Fire. And we did some work last year with Kara Seabright, our graphic illustrator tonight. And we will talk about that in a future webinar, but I do want people to know that we do have an introduction to gardening book coming out mid-May, and people are, they asked for it, so they're getting it. And that was a result of working together and looking across the islands like you did, Joanne. You know, you saw the reflecting that needed to be done and the opportunities to be seized. And I think we should be really proud of our islands at the end of the day. And that should give us the strength to carry on and commit to what you're talking about. So Hawa, so much to you. And I am proud to be one of your constituents.
Oh,
I'd also,
thank you, Nika.
hey, Hawa, so much. And also a shout out to you and your husband, Reg, because you guys are very generous people, and just want to recognize that it's within your entire bones to be so generous to people, and we thank you both for that.
Certainly feel it back, so thank you.
Oh, Okay, our next guest is Emmy O'Gorman. She's a high school foods and nutrition I was going to say officer, a high school food. Sorry about that. Is a high school foods and nutrition teacher with a long history of agriculture and floriculture in her family. She was born and raised in Port Alberni on Vancouver Island and has been living in sunny Sandspit, Kilcoon, a grower's paradise for over 20 years. She has a formal education in ethnobotany from the University of Victoria and has worked on school gardens in 3 of our local schools, with students ranging from kindergarten through grade 12. Emmy founded the Moresby Market in Sandspit and has been holding an all-ladies annual garden tour on Moresby Island for 12 years. She takes a grassroots approach to food production and sovereignty and draws on people power and knowledge sharing to create local food security. Welcome, Emmy. How are you doing tonight?
Thank you. Well, I feel like I'm in the presence of greatness once again, same as the last presentation. Thank you to all of the speakers before me. You have really set the bar quite high. So I'm feeling nervous, which is strange for a teacher, but hopefully I can represent my community and island as well as you all have tonight. So Hawa to everybody. It's been great so far.
Hawa, Emmy, and I know you will, all the work you do for your community and across the islands. It is pretty amazing. It's been really thrilling to learn about. So can you tell us about some of the food initiatives that are happening in Kilcoon, Sandspit, and how they support knowledge sharing?
Okay, I believe that Shelley is going to share some looped photographs as I speak, which will put what I'm saying into some context. Thank you for the technical support once again, Shelley. She saved me earlier today. So I'll just go ahead and start because it looks like it's happening on the screen in front of me or about to. So I am a teacher, and of course I have a focus on knowledge sharing as an economy. So barter systems, but also like we've been doing tonight, sharing information and experiences and knowledge as an economy, giving it that value. And that fits in very well, of course, with being a teacher. We're doing that every day. I'm getting distracted by my own pictures here. Hopefully you're enjoying them. So the question was, what are some of the food initiatives that are happening in Kilcoon in Sandspit? We have a long agricultural history here. As many of you know, the current golf course was formerly a dairy. They also raised beef cattle, and they provided unpasteurized raw milk to a lot of the south end of our islands for quite a long time before they were shut down by regulations. And that's been a topic I've heard come up repeatedly with our speakers tonight. And so we do have the capability to do those sorts of things here. And I've heard in past presentations that there is a want to have a green or a, sorry, I have to stop looking at my pictures. I'm terribly distracted by gardens. I can't not look at them. See if I can get this off the screen. Pardon me, everybody. I don't know if I can. So I'll just have to speak through it. So we have had orchards and dairies and all sorts of agricultural production. Sandspit is a very sunny community, and it's also very flat, and we have very sandy soil. And so we would be a microclimate, as there are many microclimates. Even within our community, there are microclimates where soil conditions are different and the types of varieties that do well are different. And so really, I find the best way to support that is to information share. And the most effective way that I have found to information share, both for myself and for my students and for my communities, is to go on garden tours. And so I've been hosting the garden tour in Sans, but you can see the picture was on the screen there. And it's an all women's garden tour. And it's been happening for 12 years. And we travel around to, there's another picture of the garden group. We travel around to a variety of gardens. It's different gardens every year. And we're all gardeners. That's a prerequisite to coming on the tour, gardeners at all different levels. And we just spend the whole night together talking about gardens and asking questions of the gardeners and residents that we visit and the farmers. And we just glean, to use a agricultural word, we just glean information from everybody at every stop. And it's very inspirational for myself as a gardener, but we just every year hear people say, wow, I learned so much, or I'm going to try doing this, or I didn't know that you needed 3 of this type of tree in order for pollination to occur. And so just seeing what we can do here, I think that is the most important takeaway, is seeing it with your eyes, eating the amazing raspberries off people's bushes, tasting the tarragon that you may have never tasted before out of the greenhouse. It's very inspiring, and the feedback has just been amazing. And I find it's the same with my students. When we grow our own gardens, when we go on tour, when we see what's possible, we're really starting from the ground up, and the teaching and learning just happens very organically, to use another gardening word. So did that answer the question?
I'm still mesmerized by your photos, but I was also
looking at all my students with glee. The picture of the kale, the children eating the kale in the greenhouse, that actually happened the day after one of our earthquake evacuations. And we went into the garden as a way to sort of decompress and bring ourselves back. And it was a really lovely experience. So that picture is really meaningful to me, because I remember the morning and everyone was a little bit stressed out. So I just find that even the garden tours are so therapeutic. And when we go to gardeners' properties and farmers as well, we're really honoring them when we ask them to teach us and show us. And growers are often their own worst critics, but we also love to talk about plants. Try and shut us up. So it really sort of takes care of itself. We also do the Moresby Market in Sanspit. It's a very small market, but we have vendors selling plant starts, garlic, greens. I do have a list written down. If anybody, there's a picture of our garlic growers harvest on the left. That's Rainy Gautier's farm. And there he's teaching my students about his soil amendment, seaweeds, that kind of thing. We also have a lot of egg production that happens on Moresby Island. And I think the garlic farm is our biggest though. And we have a lot of berry production. So a lot of blueberries and raspberries. And I believe that we could produce all of the berries that we could ever need, both commercially and through wild harvest on our islands. I don't think we would ever have to import them if we put some effort into it.
Right. My goodness. This is just amazing. And we've got a couple things here I just want to say right now. One is Kim, our dear Kim, is like, ooh, salmonberry cakes look fab. You know, everyone's stuck on your photos here too. But we do have a question I'm going to ask in real time, which is, when is the next garden tour? We have
it's a secret.
Oh, it's Caroline
no.
from Haida Gwaii Coffee House. You have to let her know, because she...
Okay, so this is going to probably overlap with one of the future questions, but the garden tour, it's open to women, people who identify as women, female, and you must be a resident of Haida Gwaii or a house guest of a resident of Haida Gwaii, and you have to be a gardener. And other than that, those are really the only parameters. It happens every BC Day, the Friday of the BC Day weekend. So right before the Sunday Fall Fair, so that we can show all of our prized cabbages and lilies and flowers on Friday night, and then cut them all on Saturday and take them to the fair. It's timed around the Fall Fair.
You are very organized. You know how to live with the seasons of the earth, the seasons of the people, hey? Well, can you tell us a bit about the value of mentorship in food skills within the school system, community programs, and beyond?
Okay, well, I mean, I feel like I'm going to repeat myself a little bit here. I'm sort of going in circles, but I think mentorship is extremely important in agriculture, as we know, and we've talked about the fishing industry as well, where traditionally the keys to the boat were handed down. In many places, the fields and the land was handed down to farm. And I feel like we might be trying to catch up a little bit in that respect, with some, newer, younger people wanting to get into agriculture who don't have maybe the land passed down from their families or the boats or the gear. And so I really believe that we do need to step in and put more effort into mentorship and teaching. We have to sort of fill that gap because there's a lot of interest out there, as we have seen, especially in the past year. But just introducing kids to flavors and going and picking the seaweed, like you can see in the picture with the little ones, and really learning hands-on by going and doing it. And, butchering the deer in the picture on the screen here, a student bowed that deer, and we were able to butcher it. We weren't able to serve it to students, but we were able to look at the anatomy of the deer, and it was just so valuable. And so just getting your hands dirty, literally, and getting the kids especially involved, because then those children, like our high school in Dodge and Geets services at least 5 communities. Those goats were just born about 3 days ago, the little white goats. And just, the mentorship part, having the kids touch the goats and pick the kale, and I think it kind of takes care of itself. They take that knowledge and those experiences back into their respective communities and into their homes, and it starts the conversations with all those generations. And the students send me pictures of their little kale plants or of their very first coho that they caught. That's our school fishing derby for coho in the top left. And yeah, so rather than overtly saying this is what you must do and this is what you must learn, it's a much more sort of hands-on experiential learning approach. And then that knowledge just goes out into the communities, and it sets a foundation for what we're trying to accomplish, which is love of food security, getting out, knowing when the berries are in season and what the phenological indicators are. So which plants blooming tell us that other plants are ready to harvest. Like the salmonberry blossoms, for example, letting us know that it's time to look for nettles. And they're starting to bloom right now. So now is the time to start looking for your nettle patches. It's a little early, some of them are under snow, but so just sharing all that knowledge. Knowledge is power. And I've heard somebody else say it earlier tonight. I think that's the economy, gardening economy.
Yeah, it really is. And when you started saying knowledge sharing and putting it into all of this, I'm like, wow, it just took on a whole new meaning for me, and it's really thrilling. Someone here said Emmy touched on one of the most important aspects of growing food, which is the therapeutic value that we so need in these times. And I was thinking about that even for the like people in the city that maybe they were growing flowers, like maybe they weren't growing food on their balconies, but there's huge therapy in it, right? I just saw you react to it. Yeah. So however, that very healing stuff. So you're in Kilkun and you work within your community, but also in schools where your community extends and elsewhere. So what are some of those opportunities for your community and schools to work together with all communities to contribute to island food independence? I think you've already told us, but I want to give you another shot here if you have anything else you want to share. Emmy, I may have to move to Kilkun. I don't know. It's looking pretty cool over there.
Well, we do. Our local Super Value, of course, supports local farmers when they can, and that's really wonderful. I actually heard an essential worker from off island speaking a few weeks ago and saying, you have such a wonderful produce selection here. And I was here in the summer. It was all local produce, and they were commenting on that. And I thought, wow, that's really interesting for someone who comes from somewhere where they have such selection. And, we buy our local carrots and our onions and our kale and our garlic year round, and the berries. So just supporting that economy within the island communities, of making sure that we provide opportunities to buy those products, not just at farmers markets, but whenever we need them, when we're doing our soup shops. I certainly have had amazing support as a foods and nutrition teacher in the high school, as far as being connected with farmers and producers through the farm to school program, primarily, calling me and saying, you know, we have deer, we have fish, we, you know, would you like to buy some chanterelles? We can provide you with that. And so I constantly have locally grown, locally harvested, locally caught, hunted food coming into the schools. And that is because of the efforts of our greater communities. Our schools and our children, our students, there are only 2 high schools on Haida Gwaii. And so by default, we have community collaboration in our education system on these islands. And that's a really beautiful thing. We're coming from several different islands and several different communities. And so just coming together in the classroom and working on our food awareness and working on our greenhouse together as a class, those types of things, I think we're touching on that. Networking.
Yeah, absolutely. That's just so exciting. And yeah, I'm smiling pretty hard. This is a very good evening, but my cheeks are starting to hurt because I can't.
You're always smiling.
Extra smiling. Seriously, they're hurting. Not too bad to complain about. Not a bad thing to complain about. It's really extraordinary what you're doing and seeing. Like, how is so much for sharing those photos, because it's just extraordinary. And I didn't realize how much. I apologize. I did not realize how much is over in Kilkun, and all that incredible stuff you're doing over there. It was also really great to see some of my nieces and nephews in your photos and know that they got to participate in such an incredible way. So how is so much for that as well.
Mm-hmm.
I want to go to school so I can take your course. But I was wondering.
Come to school.
I love flowers. I'm promising myself I'm going to get into gardening for sustenance, but flowers give me the sustenance in spirit, right? Like, they're so beautiful. I feel like I need them. But you know, what flowers? This is sort of off the cuff here, but you know, what flowers can we grow that we can eat that are pretty easy to?
Oh, so
then
many.
I feel like I'm contributing to my family's health.
Mm-hmm. Well, I do have a YouTube video about edible flowers on Haida Gwaii, Miss O's little mini food lessons that we went during the school lockdown last year. So that is very specific to Haida Gwaii. Borage is amazing. The little blue flowers, they taste like cucumbers. They're unbelievable in desserts, savory or sweet. Nasturtium, of course. There are just so many. Squash flowers, marigolds, not my favorite, but calendula, which actually blooms 12 months out of the year on Haida Gwaii. So if you're the type of person who gets happiness from flowers, grow calendula, because even in January, it'll just struggle through the frost and brighten your day. There really are so many, and many of them are perennial and edible. And of course, we're attracting those pollinators. The pollinators on Haida Gwaii are mind-blowing. I don't have a television. I watch the bees, and I am never bored. We have so many types of bees and wasps and flies that are just so entertaining here. So raspberry blossoms is just a buzz of activity when they're in flower. So there are so many flowers to grow, and I highly recommend. Flowers are my personal passion. I grow food, but I am a floriculturalist at heart. And yeah, growing flowers, it does really bring you those mental health benefits. So I highly recommend doing both.
All right. How I'm very excited about that. And I didn't realize this is silly. I didn't know you could eat calendula. I've grown it to make salve and stuff like that. I didn't
Very
know
mild.
Yeah. Okay, great. Well, Hawa, Emmy, so much. And I think I promise I'll garden, so then I can go on your garden tour, right? If I garden, I get to go on the garden tour?
It's open to anybody who has the will to learn to garden too. So if you are an absolute beginner, but you have hopes of starting a garden, and I find that those are the participants who are usually the most affected by the tour. they're just mind blown. It's mind blowing. It really is. You just go into a different world. Yeah.
Well, Hawa, thank you so much again. It's been just
Hawa, to you
wonderful.
for letting me talk about plants and gardens in school.
I
This is my kind of fun.
I need the link to the YouTube video too. Yeah, I can tell this is fantastic stuff. So Hawa, so much. Oh, I lost my notes. Where'd they go? There we go. So our last panelist tonight is a wonderful man. Otska Terry Cardy has been a Masset resident since 1970 and a counselor for the village of Masset for the last couple of years. He is happily married to a wonderful Haida woman, Christine Cardy. Hi, Christine. They have a greenhouse and an assortment of boxes and beds where they grow vegetables for their own use. He is excited to see the community awareness and involvement increasing every year around these issues. Welcome, Otska. How are you?
I'm well, thank you, Jiskang. It's really an honor to be included here. I kind of feel like the greenhorn kid, though I'm not a kid, but I sure feel like one when I get into the garden and when I see what everybody else is doing. I'm really amazed by all of the panelists and you know what they've presented tonight. It's amazing, and you know it's so encouraging and uplifting that yeah, it really makes my heart big. It makes me feel wonderful. So yes, I've been here for a long time, and I wish that I could have you know taken this up gardening a little sooner in my life, but I've kind of tried to you know attack it with as much enthusiasm as I can, as if I didn't have enough to do already. You know, I found something that I really want to do a lot. So, and that's led me to want to share it as much as I can with all of our community, like-minded people like myself, and also people like myself that are basically learners. You know, we have a tremendous number of great gardeners in our community here. You know, most of them, you know, tend to grow their own things here and there, and a lot of it we don't get to see because, you know, it's in people's yards, and unless you're going snooping around, you know, you really don't see it. Or, you know, if you have, like I do, fortunate enough to have a neighbor just down the street here that is a tremendous gardener. He's been doing wonderful things with his property, and you know, I'm envious. Every time I drive by, instead of looking where I'm going, I have to turn and look to the left and look at this wonderful garden that my neighbor Dave has and his wife Lori have growing. So I won't say too much. I know you had some questions, so if you'd like to ask me those. But again, you know, I want to say for sure that you know, Christine and I were going to be married for 50 years this year coming up, and you know, we've had many years of doing things together, and one of the things that we do is prepare and preserve foods, the natural foods, and you know, we really do a lot that way. We have a freezer just dedicated for fish and another dedicated for berries. So, you know, we're real berry gatherers up here in the north, as you probably know. So I'll just leave it at that for now. Thanks.
It made me think how so much, Terry, and it made me think about you know, my old Nanai Binky and Chinai Billy too. They had something like 4 freezers, and each one was sort of dedicated to different foods from Haida Gwaii. You know, they had their areas, and it's beautiful to hear you and Christine do the same, and your passion for the gardening and your quest for learning. And in the greater Masset area, there you've mentioned there's a lot going on there, and as a counselor for the village of Masset, what are some of the economic opportunities that exist or that you're looking towards or thinking of in Masset around island food?
Well, I think there's almost limitless rather opportunities. You know, there are of course our natural resources, which even though they've been severely impacted by, you know, say overfishing and you know, other commercial um, commercial endeavors, you know, there's still a good you know, still lots there for us to access. Again, I think, you know, we do have a processing plant here. And, you know, we did have a cannery at one time. In fact, first time I was ever onions was in 1966. And I worked in the old Queen Charlotte cannery. And that was quite an experience because, you know, just about everybody in our communities worked somewhere, and many of them worked in the old QCI cannery. But I think there's those opportunities. We have our harbor to, you know, for our fishermen to access, and you know, we do have a boat ramp, like actually a couple boat ramps, you know, like Queen Charlotte, maybe not as new and you know, as nice as as Charlotte's, but you know, I'm kind of envious of their boat ramp, to be honest. But you know, we have a lot of opportunities there. I think being one of the, you know, larger communities, and I say larger communities, and when I mean that, when I say the larger communities, I can't help but think of Old Masset as, you know, our community as well. We're so close together. We've been, you know, really cooperating a lot in the political sense and in infrastructure for, you know, many years, at least 25, 30 years. When I was a councillor before and the mayor at one point, we, you know, we really entered into a lot of good programs together. You know, we share our water system. That was a joint effort. Our hospital is another example. So, you know, it's only a logical thing for us to join closer with our, you know, our agricultural opportunities and see that the economics are benefits for both of our communities.
How it's I just love that the theme throughout the evening has what is inextricable from many themes is the need to work together, the love of working and sharing together, and that's just wonderful to hear, and you can really see it up there, and it's really impressive how you guys have found ways to support each other and make it better for all. And we like your boat ramp. Me and my husband, we like your guys' boat ramp.
It's okay. It's, yeah, not to put it down. It's a good ramp.
Yeah. But we do like yours too, Mayor Olson, however, that one as well. So you've already spoken about, you know, working together and with Bautlage and Masset. And I'm thinking, you know, you're married to a beautiful woman, a very strong Haida woman. You've been a part of our community and nation for a long time. And what would some of the Haida values or traditions that may have impacted or influenced you or greater Masset as well?
Well, actually, very many. You know, I think it's a learning curve that people come to our community and, you know, have to recognize, and it takes a while, and it definitely, you know, requires, I think, an interest, you know, in people to see the Haida values. You know, I can remember going to the Yaccoon 50 years ago, almost, you know, well, 50 years ago, and, you know, to fish camp with Christine Snani and Chinny and the family, and spending the time up there in their little cabin, you know, it's like, we were going to the hotel up in the Yaccoon, but it was kind of funny. It was, you know, a fish camp. What can you say, right? And you know, catching and that. So, you know, Christine and I, we've continued that, and our daughter, and you know, and our sons, and our daughters and son, when we all engage in that. You know, now, you know, we've gathered seaweed, you know, we've canned fish, smoked fish, made jilts, made lox, you know, and candied salmon and all the good stuff. And then, you know, we preserve it and we freeze it, or however we keep it. Those are strong Haida values, you know, that I learned. And I have to say, a lot of the different things that I learned from Haida sources. Yeah, most, to be honest. And you know, I'm happy for that, and very proud to say that I am.
How and that doing it together too, hey, like that really makes food taste better, and it feels better, like that family or community working together to get your sustenance and nourishment. Hey, it's a good way. Yeah, it's a real good way. And then so we're talking about Haida values, and one is to Haida values to share with others, and you've spoken about how Masset and Bautlage, Old Masset work together. Does that expand out into Toe Hill and things like that, or how does Masset proper work with their people, you know, and your neighbors in food?
Well, within our community, you know, within the village here, anyway, you know, village of Masset. So I've been lucky, personally. Last year, we applied and received a small grant from the COVID funding from the Gwaii Trust. And so we started a community garden. And, you know, I want to put a big shout out to all of the volunteers that I had, a small but dedicated group, and, you know, weather permitting and other things, because it certainly wasn't a very nice year as far as weather went. You know, we persevered and we did our plantings and things. And I think we learned a lot. I think, you know, this year we want to move forward. I've gotten, for our garden, we got starters. You know, there was a large donation, as well as purchasing, you know, seed potatoes and other things, you know, that went in the garden. Yeah, and you know, the volunteers were awesome. I'd name them, but I think some of them don't really like to have their, you know, they're humble and prefer to be just, you know, happy with having done it. And I think they're great. I do want to really thank Chris Horner and the ADP program, all the people down at the adult day program in Old Masset, is an inspiration, really. You know, what everybody's doing there, Kevin, and you know, and the efforts that everybody's putting in there for the big community garden that's going down in on the prairie. And you know, I've really received so much help from them, from people at the school like Shelley and Daniel, you know, as well as individuals, Lori, another one of my great neighbor gardeners, her and Russell. You know, it's pretty overwhelming, but we have so far to go. As a community, as a municipality, I think we have to grow to enable people, not only as a community at, you know, at large, but as households. We have to make a little more effort. If it means hopefully, somewhere down the road, getting greenhouse or greenhouses to provide starters, plantings for people to put in, and perhaps even take it a step further and provide the means, by accessing soil and, materials for building plots and boxes. One thing that I found here in particular, and maybe it's only, well, from my limited experience, which is only a few years, that things grow so much better kind of in raised beds or boxes or in greenhouses. And if they're in boxes, it's really good to protect them with some boxed coverings or cold frames or such. It keeps the bugs away and really provides a little extra warmth which they need to grow. So I know I'm kind of rambling here, but there's just so many thoughts that came to my mind listening to everybody else. And so I'm if you could indulge me, I'll just go on a little bit further. Yeah, so I think it's a growing thing, and I think that like many of the other panelists said tonight, that sharing knowledge is just the most wonderful thing. I've seen some of now that I've seen what Emmy's doing in Sandspit, like, wow, that just blows me off the ground, and I've seen what Missy and the ladies are doing in Skidegate, and and then of course the greenhouses here at the schools. Yeah, I think it's great, but it's up to us, I think, from a municipal standpoint at least, to really go the extra mile and try to find that key ingredient that really helps a lot. I mean, it's not from the earth or whatever, and I hate to say it, but it's that word money that we all know really keeps a lot of wheels turning and enables us in many ways. If we can help in that direction, I think that's one of the things that we really have to do as a municipality, and as any any governing kind of body. Yeah, it's pretty important. So yeah, I'm really just blown away by everybody else. The long-term people that have been doing it for longer than I've been on the island here. I know that there are farmers and growers all up and down the islands that are just amazing. I know my wife has mentioned many times that her Nani Carey was a real avid gardener, and that there were many gardens in Old Masset. I was lucky, to see here in the village here years ago. The first property we owned, in fact, had an overgrown bed in it that was beautiful soil. There were farms in Dalcatla, and there were farms here in Masset, are very big, gardens. Kurt Lindner was a pioneer of, had a person of everybody knew back in the day, and he was a terrific farmer, and especially in his old age. So in a way, I kind of draw some inspiration from him. It's really something to look and see Brussels sprouts sticking up out of 1.5 feet of snow. And, I mean, that's inspiration, right? That's what we need to do. We need to be able to become, let's grow more, and let's make it more affordable as well. We're losing it in the stores with the cost of produce, the shipping costs, and the quality is questionable many times. So the more that we do here and to become, food sovereign, that's the way we have to go. And so I'm going to do everything I can do. And I know that there's a lot of other people that are working towards the same goals.
Oh, Hawa, so much for that. And someone in here, Shelley, said she would like to hear about the new farmers market. No, about the
Right.
new Maxit farmers market. Sorry.
Yeah, okay. So I think everybody knows that, you know, usually Friday afternoons during the growing season and, you know, well past the growing season, in fact, you know, we have a large, well, a number of people that set up tables, you know, it's right by our village office at this point. But right down Main Street, there was a building that was previously a garage, and it was owned by Suncor, and it still is. They're how could I put it? Rejuvenating the, you know, the oil that was basically lost there in the old days. You know, things just got dumped in the ground, leaky tanks, et cetera, et cetera. So that's been going on for, well, at least 25 years. So the building is there, and it's, you know, had a number of kind of rebirths, but at this point, it's being renovated. There, it will provide a all year round farmers market facility, and as well as having outdoor access in the, you know, in the better weather, and also I think it's going to be used for displaying local artists' work and such. So it was good. We had to negotiate. It took quite some time to get a lease from Suncor. So we did get that, and it's great. I think, you know, it's really going to help the local growers and people from around the islands that want to bring in produce and sell it here in our community. And yeah, it's going to be a good thing, and it's almost done, I think. So yeah, that's very exciting. Thanks for asking, Shelley. I forgot it in all my other ramblings.
Oh, that is so exciting, Terry. And when I went up there, I think it was in the fall. It was, you know, it's still the outdoor one, right? But it was great. I mean, I got laundry detergent. I believe it was the Lavois that I purchased it from. You know, they made their own soap and turned it into a laundry soap. And I got all sorts of good food and bread. And it was really cool because I have to say I hadn't been to the market up there before. And it was a very rich and diverse market. And I'm really excited to hear it'll be year round. I just have, I want to make a comment, and then, but I would like to ask you, Terry, about the translation of your Haida name into English. If I'm saying it ready, Otska, and it translates into fortunate hunter. And we had an earlier conversation about it, and I thought that the meaning behind it is so profound. You're such a beautiful human being, and I just would hope that you would share a bit about what that name means.
Well, it meant, and it means a lot to me. You know, for one, it was to begin with an inclusion, you know, in a family, and it was really profound because in my personal life, I've kind of had three mothers, and so, you know, the last mother that well, actually, she wasn't the last, but I didn't meet my own real mother until I was in my 30s. And so I was adopted as a very young child, I think pretty well a baby. And so when I was adopted, you know, it meant a lot to me. I wanted to be adopted. I wanted to feel more Haida. I really admired the elders and the people that I knew, the people my age. So it meant a lot. So the name was explained to me to mean, you know, fortunate hunter. And what Mom said, that was Winnie Yeltatsi, and she was Henry Edenshaw's daughter. She said that it didn't mean that I was a good hunter, and that's true because you know, I have hunted, but I'm not as good as, many of the hunters that I know. But it meant that I would always kind of get what, what I wanted or what I was seeking. And it's been so true in so many ways that the things that I've gotten, received over the years, and I don't mean materialistic things, I just mean, happiness and, a good family, a wonderful wife, children, grandchildren, those sort of things. I was lucky in a very profound way that I received a liver transplant 15, 16 years ago now. And which I wouldn't have been here to be here tonight, or even to do many of the things that I've done, or even see some of the beautiful family that I have now, my grandchildren. So yeah, it was an honor, and I guess my biggest, and I won't say my shame, but some of my biggest disappointment is that I can't exactly remember how it was pronounced, totally. And I know that's not a good thing, but it happens. So, but the intent and the meaning that I was given was, it's come true, and I respect that, because so many things that the elders and people said to me have come true, and I've seen the wisdom in that, when somebody tells you something, you may take it with a grain of salt, or you may think, that's not so profound, but all of a sudden, when it rings to be true, it's very an epiphany, you might say. It's really rings true, and it's a wonderful thing. So that's what it means to me. And I have it in here, I memorize it in feeling, not so much in name.
And we are all learning. And Terry, Hawa, so much for sharing that. And you are a truly beautiful being. And elders and people that put that thought into the names, they're putting that thought, like you say, and then they knew what they were doing. And Hawa, and in earlier, oh goodness, where did it go? Emily, someone thanked the Gwaii Trust. Emily thanked the Gwaii Trust, for some work that the Gwaii Trust supports, their program, and you're on the Gwaii Trust. And I just want to, through you, say Hawa to the Gwaii Trust as well for all the work they have done for our islands, and the support you guys have given us over this year in COVID emergency response, and now a food sovereignty program, I believe. And I remember attending the AGM and hearing your powerful words, and I just want to thank you for all the work you do. Okay, so
Hawa, I appreciate your kind words very much. And with regards to the Gwaii Trust, I'll definitely pass that on to the rest of the board. I'm only an alternate at this point. I have to say that I was fortunate to be there in the beginning, and to have participated in creating the trust, and it's something that I'll forever be proud of, as one of the greatest accomplishments of my life, because the ideals and the ability to work together as an island community, much like we're doing here, in fact, exactly like we're doing here. That was something that we embraced as a whole island, and we did very well with it. And it's shown that the people of Haida Gwaii, the Haida people, and us non-Haidas, but Haidas in our hearts, we have a lot that we can do, and I have no doubt that we will, pursue and achieve our goals in time.
And we will. And the creation of the trust, oh my goodness, we could talk all night. I love the stories behind that. And how you were in there. And what an incredible thing that our islands work together to make happen. So Hawa, so much, Terry, and love to the family. Oh, go ahead. Were you going to say something?
No, I just said quietly, I said thank you, but I'll say it very loudly. Thank you and Hawa.
Okay, Hawa, so much. We just have a couple more things going on here. This was an amazing evening. Kara, I was wondering if you have a moment to share your beautiful artwork and the words you may have captured throughout the night, or the feeling, like what Terry's talking about. It's a feeling too. Love to see what you have. And as Kara does start to pull that up, there's so many comments. I started realizing I probably should have been reading them a bit in amongst the evening. So I'm not going to read them all out, but I will say to my sister Nadine, I'm totally into a garden tour. I'm very excited about that. And there was a lot of appreciation about learning about the old gardens. And there's a lot of comments about the regulations, and how they don't work for us here. And I think there's a lot to be said for no cookie cutter approach. But look at what we have here from Kara. This is beautiful. While you guys are reading some of the gems she recorded tonight, I'm just going to look at what else we have here in the chat box. Again, the sharing the knowledge, which all of you beautiful people tonight have done so well and have inspired so many. I know I am. And so much talk about working together, about really, really knowing what we have here and how we can make it work for each other and balance off of each other and make sure we're looking after Haida Gwaii at the same time. There a lot of appreciation for the chefs in the room, and a lot of appreciation for all the sharing that the different communities have done. There was talk about the hatcheries, Mr. Mayor Olson. There's some big interest in that. And the oyster shells are also good for something else. I forget where I saw that, but someone else is pointing out 7-day-a-week farmers markets are very important. And oh yes, for laying hens. So broken up oyster shells are also great for laying hens. Laying hens mean I'm not going to lay the hen. It means the hens that lay eggs. That's that's what that's good for. They pick at the broken bits of shells, eat them, and this keeps the eggshells hard on the eggs that they lay. There's people talking about the greenhouses. Terry, that's what I meant to say. Emily had mentioned earlier too, there's different ecosystems on Haida Gwaii. And so it's really good to know about the coverings over the gardens that you were talking about that can help with heat retention as well as pest control. And Missy is so sweet. Missy is one of the biggest drivers behind this whole Haida Gwaii food strategy. And she's so enthusiastic and energetic, and a little lower down in the food in the chat. She said, if I win a door prize, don't let me have it. I've mentioned my name's in there too many times, but Missy, if you win it, you win it. Sorry. And so we did ask about the next garden tour, and just a lot of really beautiful comments, you guys. So you're amazing. And Emmy, am I saying Emily or Emmy? What am I doing now? I'm lost here. Sorry. My eyes are tired. Emmy, yes, I'm so sorry, Emmy. I called you Emily earlier. Bad me. Names are very important. But she has shared her YouTube link for the edible flowers, I'm assuming. And congratulations to you, Terry and Christine, for your 50 years. And I could go on, but what I am going to do, there we go. Yes, thank you so much, Ilea, is I want to thank all of you. It's been a real privilege to be with you all tonight. Really incredible people, passionate knowledge, beautiful communities that you're representing and bringing to the table. Just before we And Kara, your work is extraordinary. I'm blown away. You are a professional listener. So as I mentioned, there will be an introduction to gardening book coming out mid-May, being published by the Haida Gwaii Museum and in partnership with Swiluid Sustainability Society. There will be a webinar around that. We want to again thank MEADS, Misty Isles Economic Development Society, for the donation of the awesome door prizes tonight. There's so many contributors, and the winners will be announced tomorrow. And again, a special thanks to Jen Rutt for all your help with this program tonight. To everyone who put their things into the chat box. And don't forget, you can email more information if you want to get involved. If you have more questions, you can email Haida Gwaii Food Strategy, or pardon me, HG Food Strategy @gmail.com. I'm going to pop that into the chat box as well, and remind you that our Water is Life webinar is coming April 22nd, and we have quite an amazing lineup for that evening as well. So, Hawa, to the host of tonight's show, the Council of the Haida Nation, with a special shout out to Ilea and Raven, such a dynamic team, Hawa, so much. And to the Skidegate Band Council, Local Food to School Program, Swiluid Sustainability Society, Haida Gwaii Museum, the Haida Health Centers in Autlage and Flakilda, and to everyone else that that shows up, like you all have tonight, all our listeners, all our panelists, those who show up on the ground, those giving themselves back to Haida Gwaii. That's how we're going to move forward, is giving ourselves back to Haida Gwaii, and we're doing it, and we've been working hard, and we're going to keep going. So Hawa Dalang Wadluchan and Batkas, if you could close us off tonight with a beautiful prayer for such a beautiful evening.
Hala talang singasu. Solana gutnang eat kaidagas. A hayat singait skaudagi dunga talangkit laga. Gatagai wadlukan itkan detlaudas. Skaudagi dunga talangkit laga. Hil wadlukan skaudagi dunga talangkit laga. Kandlai wadlukan skaudagi dunga talangkit laga. Tulgit hun tlagi wats hagang gihla tulgat. Good at long quagits laga. Good at it daguyaga. Tul wadluhan hul kingait la hawa. Creator, we thank you for today, for all the food that you make available to us. For this, we thank you. We thank you for all the plants. We thank you for all the waters. People everywhere are having trouble. Do help them. It is good we depend on each other. Together we are strong. Look after everyone. Thank you.
Hawa Gatkas, and Hawa again to our panelists, and including the Lavoys and Kevin Brown and Saud Wadluchan Theta. You really are all so great. Have a good evening, everyone.